Welcome to a very special episode of Pub Talk. I'm Jeremy, and I'm joined as always by my good friend Michael.
Hello.
We're recording today's episode from inside Marshall Brewing, where we're fortunate enough to have a special guest with us today. The one and only, the man, the myth, the guy who founded Marshall Brewing 10 years ago, the one and only Eric Marshall.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for being here.
For our regular listeners, this episode is a departure from our usual format. We're going to chat with Eric about some of the exciting things happening with Marshall Brewing and the craft beer scene in Oklahoma as well. We will, of course, try a new beer from Marshall just released today, and we may have to drink some of their other delicious beers along as we're here. For any new listeners, as well as our guests, let me tell you a little bit about Pub Talk. We call ourselves the Unofficial Official Craft Beer Podcast of Oklahoma, and our tagline is that we're all about the 3 Bs, beer buddies, and bullshit. We started doing the show in late 2013, just as an excuse to hang out, drink some beer, and try to be entertaining. But an element of the show that was introduced from episode 1 is trying a new beer each week.
So when we started the show, it's safe to say both of our tastes in beer were unrefined and leaned toward the Coors Miller Lights of the world. But over the course of the 4.5 years we've been doing the show's evolved, as has our taste in beer. While we're still far from being experts, these days we both drink almost exclusively craft beer. And the show has evolved into focusing on craft beer and that world rather than some of the other elements that we included more heavily in the show in the early years. So essentially, Pub Talk has been the evolution of a couple of beer drinkers. So here we are, episode 173. We're so excited today to have our first guest from the craft beer industry on the show, recorded in this fantastic brewery. I just can't think of a better way to pop our proverbial cherries than with our favorite local brewery. And thank you, Eric, for having us.
Thanks for being here, guys. I'm excited.
So, with that, let's get to it. I'll let you introduce yourself, talk a little bit about Marshall, and just whatever you want to do, and then we'll try this beer out.
Sure. My name's Eric Marshall. I'm founder brewmaster here at Marshall Brewing. We're about to celebrate our 10th anniversary. Time flies, or depending on the day, it's either flown or it's been too long. So you never know. But yeah, so we've been around 10 years. Man, it's crazy how the industry's grown. We started, and I pretty much was kind of doing everything right at the beginning, and then realized real quick that trying to run the operations, do the business side of things, and try to get out and sell beer is a little bit ambitious. And so, fortunately, good family friend, one of my brother's best friends growing up. Wes Alexander, who was our director of sales. He had his own business where he was dealing in industrial chemicals, and really the majority of his operations were going on during the morning. And when we started, we were draft only. And really to try to approach any bars or restaurants, if you're going after a restaurant, you can't hit them before or during lunch hour. So it was always in the afternoon, which worked out perfect for him.
Sure.
And same with the bars. So Wes came on real early on, and then one of the guys who's still with us, who was my first production employee, Tim Brophy, who is he's a fireman. So once he finished fire academy, he was kind of looking for a side hustle, and Tim's been a good friend for a long time, a guy I know that could do a lot of things I couldn't do in terms of mechanical stuff and so on, and it just worked out to kind of have that second set of hands. And like I said, he's been with us a long time. And then of course our head brewer Taylor, we hired then in October of that year. So pretty tight knit crew that's been at it for a while. Obviously we've added some other folks as we've grown, but yeah, when we started 10 years ago. There were 1,500 craft brewers. Now there's 6,500 craft brewers.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So it's pretty crazy, and the number of breweries in Oklahoma, and specifically in Tulsa, has grown considerably in the last several years. So it's crazy. Time flies. I mean, it started as I have a degree in international business and German from TU. Didn't really know what I was going to do with. I actually started as an electrical engineer. And realized real quick that that was not what I was meant to be. But I was taking some German classes and really enjoyed it. I'd always wanted to take German. We went and did a family trip up to Europe when I was a kid, and just loved all the German-speaking countries. But because, in Oklahoma, German's not a common language
Right.
or whatever.
Sure.
There was one class for all 4 years of high school, and because I played football and was involved in other activities, it just never worked out in my schedule. So when I went to TU, wanted to take German and just really enjoyed it. And one of the guys that happened to be in our class was head of the international business program. He was taking a kind of continuing ed. He was also invited to go teach a course over kind of in an interim period. And so he wanted to learn a little German, but just basically was like, hey, if you're switching over to business college, you should really look at this. So it's kind of an opportunity for me then, as he sort of highlighted the study abroad. I knew I wanted to do that, and so it's kind of an opportunity to really shift some of the focus there, get a good broad sort of business experience, business background. But while being over there studying, my junior year I studied basically 7 months over there, lived with a family that didn't speak English, really learned the language at that point, but also was exposed to good, fresh, local beer. One of the big national brands in Germany called Kronbacher was about 2 miles from my host family's house, and so that was really the first opportunity I had to go visit a brewery, to really drink beer that was days old. And that really just got me. That and really just the love of the culture, and how big a part of brewery the culture was, and kind of seeing, the craft industry continue to grow. You're starting to see how big, the cultural aspect was within that. And so that's really what got me interested. I'd done a little homebrewing prior to with my older brother, but that was again kind of the opportunity that I saw. I moved back, didn't have the opportunity to drink fresh local beer anymore.
Not so much.
It was just our friends down at Chalk, and they had 1 or 2 offerings at the point, which was great, but there was a lack of a Tulsa beer, and so saw a need and an opportunity, and it was also an opportunity for me to not have to sit behind a desk my whole career, which unfortunately I get to do a fair amount of now. That's the nature of running a business, I guess. But it was also an excuse for me to get back to Germany for a little while. So after I finished school, I went and studied and apprenticed. I studied through the World Brewing Academy, which was a twin campus program through the Siebel Institute in Chicago and the Dumans Institute in Munich, and then independently through a family friend, a friend of a family friend. How about that? I got hooked up with a bunch of different German breweries and did 6 different apprenticeships all over the country, and then apprenticed with an equipment broker, equipment specialist too, who actually then ended up helping me locate the equipment that we have, and then come over and help install and get that going. So I did that. That process was kind of about a year roughly, and then I went to work for Victory Brewing up in Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia. Awesome experience. Still have a lot of great friends, still really close with some of the top brass over there, but they've grown, they've exploded. I think when I was there, we were doing about 24,000 barrels a year. I think they're up to like 180,000 barrels a year now.
Yeah.
So pretty massive. We had the opportunity to go back to Philadelphia a couple of years ago for our Craft Brewers Conference, and they're using the facility where I worked as their pilot facility now, which is just mind-blowing. We've got a 50-barrel system, and that's their pilot system. It's like, what? But anyway, spent over a year there, and then again saw the need and the opportunity to be back home to get this going and kind of be on the forefront of the craft movement in Oklahoma, and also part of the educational side of things, which was really neat. And so a good friend, Elliot Nelson with the McNelly's group, was a very integral part in saying, hey, timing is right, come back, let me figure out how we can help you. He couldn't be involved because of the way the laws are, but was very helpful in getting me introduced to the right people at every tier, bars and restaurants, wholesale tier, all of that stuff. So it's like I said, it's been a wild ride. So we started. Fortunately, I've got a brother who's a good lawyer, so that was one of the big challenges we had to fight early on. Is what can and can't we do? I mean,
Right.
There's a lot of restrictive things, and then early on we made it a point to kind of the legislative efforts, getting the laws changed was going to be a big part moving forward to do some of the things we wanted to do, because now all these breweries are flourishing because they have an opportunity to operate a tap room, which is
Right.
you can cash flow pretty quick on something like that. When we started, it was convincing people to give a local brewery a shot, and convince them that we weren't a bunch of hillbillies with making moonshine or something
Right.
like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that,
Well,
but change the perception a little bit, and and kind of fight that fight, get a little traction, and then we started to realize that we couldn't offer samples to people, so we couldn't do tours and samples. Started to realize that it would be really nice to operate a tap room. It would be really nice to do some of these things, and so that kind of put into motion the first thing was to get the laws changed to where we could sample, and then that sort of snowballed into where we are now with this coming October changing to where there's a significant effort in modernization of our laws. So kind of to say in 10 years that things have changed is kind of an understatement.
A little bit.
but at the same time, I mean, it's like, there's days that you look back and it's like I jokingly said earlier, it's there's days it's like, man, it's already been 10 years, or man, it's only been 10 years.
Yeah.
But it's very gratifying to sit back and look, and I mean, we're sitting here recording this, and I'm looking at a full tap room of people drinking beer right now.
Awesome.
At the end of a week, at the end of a long week, they get to come here and enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
You go down to Cabin Boys or Friends at Heirloom or Renaissance or wherever right in this area and see the same thing, and that's pretty awesome.
It's very awesome.
My younger sister, she's lived over in London, but she's back here now, and her fiance, who's a British guy that lives over there, was in town a few weeks ago, and we went on a pub crawl. Like all of my siblings and significant others went on a brewery pub crawl.
That's awesome.
And you couldn't do that like 8 months ago.
Right.
But now you can do it, and legitimately you could walk that from, if you parked here or there or whatever, you could walk the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's pretty neat. So we're excited about the future, excited for what collaboratively we can do moving forward, is creating this brewery culture, but also what can we do to make this city better, be good partners in the community and all that. And so kind of the opportunity, ability to really have other people to kind of help continue to grow this thing and see where it goes is pretty awesome. So got a little long-winded there, sorry.
No, that's okay. that's what we're here for. But speaking of the future, I'm going to tie right into that so we've got, and for those that don't live in Oklahoma, they may not realize we're a little archaic here still with our laws regarding alcohol, but we've got some changes coming in October. What's that going to mean for you guys?
It's going to be significant. I always like when we get into talking about laws, I always like to kind of start with saying that modernization means different things to different people. When we really started this process, again, it kind of started with the ability to sample, and that was a 3-year process, which is pretty ridiculous if you think about it. And the first year we really thought we had a good shot. The first year we got the language together and we missed the deadline to file, but started getting some feelers out there. The next year we had everything ready, ran the bill, and it was one of those things where it was 16-ounce samples per person per day, or 16 ounces of samples total per person per day, and that was way too much.
Yeah,
way too much. So that failed, and we had to go back to the drawing board. The next year ran it with 12 ounces. So kind of the idea that somebody can come in and get a glass of beer, a can of beer, a bottle of beer. And after basically an entire legislative session of me kissing ass for literally like 3 days a week for the entire legislative session, being up there and doing that, we got it through. But that then was kind of a snowball effect of, you had these other interest groups watching what happened and what's the best tactic moving forward to go for a broader sweep to try to change a little bit more stuff. And so that started the process to try to bring everybody to the table, figure out what's going to work in moving this forward. And so, a lot of the sticking points, didn't directly involve us. And so, through this whole process, we really tried to stay in our lane, knowing that the potential for change was coming. The liquor stores have been great stewards, great advocates of us and stewards of our product. There's a significant change in the environment for them to do their thing. And so we didn't want any part of that fight because, again, they've helped us grow our business. So we kind of stayed out of that. But at the same time, knowing that the possibility that the laws were going to change to allow for grocery and convenience and then sort of shift to more of a franchise model for distribution, we had to make sure that our rights as small brewers were protected in terms of distribution, access to market, placements, things of that nature. So there were things we certainly advocated for, and then there's things that really affected us and nobody else, specifically taproom laws and satellite tap rooms, things of that nature, barrelage limits, so on. And so we really tried to kind of stay in our lane on that thing. And once we kind of realized where this was going, we realized that, I can't spend all my time up there. My brother, who's practiced law during the day, can't spend all his time up there because I can't afford to pay him to do that, right? So we really started an effort to try to organize to get all of the other breweries together so that we could share the responsibilities, share the load in terms of money, because we really saw that we needed to hire a lobbyist and so on. And so that was really kind of the formation of the Craft Brewers Association of Oklahoma, which is continuing to grow. We've got several members now. We're doing new festivals, new fundraisers to try to make it a little bit more sustainable. We've got an executive director, a lobbyist. It's really moving forward. And so, if nothing else, that was really a great sort of opportunity that all of us have kind of come together and worked to bring awareness to local brewers, to work together, to really help each other kind of better the culture. And it's been an awesome experience. We all have different business models. We all make different beers. And people always want to say, oh, competition. Yes, at the end of the day, it is competition, but we're kind of all in this together at the same time too. Absolutely. So there's some. It's been a cool opportunity to really sort of see that blossom and grow. So there's a lot of things that still have to be figured out, which is kind of crazy, and there's a lot of things that we kind of took a leap of faith in with regards to how some of this stuff works. But we also see it as an opportunity. I mean, again, the liquor stores, the model's changing a little bit. We still think that the ones that really focus on the education and the experience of the customer and so on are probably going to even do a better business in a lot of senses. But people are going to have to focus and maybe adjust the way they do business a little bit. And I get that. I understand that. It's difficult, but there's also the people were calling for some modernization. And again, modernization means different things to different people.
Yeah.
But again, the things we kind of focused on were more protective stuff for the small brewers. But a big part of it was tap rooms. I mean, that's something that we really saw as an avenue for long-term sustainability, for growth. And again, this is why you're seeing a lot of other breweries pop up, because they have that instant source of revenue. And they're not going out having to do what we did in terms of like, hey, please carry our beer.
Promise it doesn't taste terrible.
It's not 3-2. That was obviously what we had to fight for a long time too. The misconception, all of that. So it's going to be interesting to see going forward. What all of that means. We're obviously in a position. We've been around. We've had a lot of great relationships. As we go through now, essentially having to pick a wholesaler to align with for territories or different areas, that certainly changes the game a little bit, and it's kind of a leap of faith. But again, we see it as a positive because now we have a level of accountability at that tier that we've never had. To kind of give a little background on that, Oklahoma's kind of operated under a 4-tiered system, which is different, but it's more of a free market system. So by 4-tier, I mean you've got your manufacturer, so your brewery, your non-resident seller, if you're not an Oklahoma business, which is essentially a broker. You've got a wholesaler, and then the retail chain. So you've got an extra tier in there. But basically, what that means is that's your if you're a non-resident seller, that's your sales force, your marketing arm right there. So then, as an in-state brewer, we can be our own non-resident seller. So because we're a resident, so we can be our own broker. But that also means that just like the non-resident sellers then have to sell to every wholesaler. Every licensed wholesaler, if they have the product, you can't be exclusive. So that being said, like the challenges you find there are, we had a wholesaler, one instance where a guy delivered a 4-year-old keg to a liquor store in Stillwater.
I think I've been to that liquor store.
On New Year's Eve. So this guy was having a party, and he called. He's like, man, I'm having this problem. So 5 o'clock on New Year's Eve, I'm in the car driving to Stillwater to take this guy a fresh keg because it's 4 years old. I didn't know that until I got there.
Yeah.
And so, but with that issue, normally I would just say, okay, I'm not going to sell the wholesaler because they're not treating our product properly. Can't do that.
Oh man.
So now, we can have a little bit higher standards. We can have a little bit more accountability on that side of things. The positive of the other system is, early on, to get, more points of distribution. If you play your cards right, you build relationships with all of these guys, and your product's widely available. So you walk into a bar, you don't have to change the way they order things. Who do you order from? Okay, you can get our product from them. So. Yeah. Also, if one wholesaler wants to try to mess you around a little bit, you got 3 or 4 others who
do you right.
Yeah. And everybody can buy the same stuff from every wholesaler, so you're competing on service at that point. So there was certainly positives in that system, but moving forward, I mean, we can implement sales plans. We can figure out where our beer is actually being sold without going out and surveying the market, stuff like that. So I mean, there's certainly some things that we're excited about moving forward. But again, it's finding the right partner, and we've been at it long enough that we've got good relationships. And the sad thing is that when we choose some people and not the others, we're maybe going to lose some of those relationships, which is unfortunate. But at the end of the day, business is business. You got to do what's right for you. But a huge, again, not to get long-winded because I've already done that, but a huge part of the change has been the Taproom Laws, and the reason we're able to do it right now is kind of another bill that kind of floated under the radar, that worded things a way that allowed us to do this, but we're limited. We can't sell strong beer past 9 p.m. So that opens up in October. We go to the same hours kind of that bars operate till 2 a.m. Not that we really want to be open till 2 a.m., but gives us the opportunity depending on. So so we certainly have some plans that way. We've got we kind of continue on this whole future thing. We're right in the middle of a project right now. We bought the building right next door to us here,
Very
literally
excited for that.
on the other side of this wall. That will we're going to build. So our tap room is kind of morphed into what it is now out of necessity. So this will be purposely built for that. So it's about 3,600 square feet. That's 2 levels. So we'll actually have office space and a bigger QA/QC lab, some different production stuff there as well. But kind of opens that up. We're going to have a big beer garden, which will be really cool.
Yeah.
So kind of a space built for the purpose of being a tap room. So we're excited about that. Then it also gives us the space where the tap room is now to open up and have more production capabilities. So we're exploring different options in terms of packaging right now. We'll continue to bottle. We'll continue to do all of that. But
I brought some dirty kegs.
you're ruining the podcast.
It's okay. We can cut it
Fuck,
out.
man. Fuck, Ben. What a rookie move. Bush League. I'm just kidding. Anyways, so
Before we were so rudely interrupted.
before we were so rudely interrupted by the brewer at Elgin Park, son of a bitch. Just kidding. Yeah, I appreciate that. Anyway, so now moving the tap room over there, we can tear the walls down in our current tap room, open it up, and have more capabilities or different packaging. We're exploring different packaging options over there. So we'll always continue to bottle. I think we're heavily invested in that. But we're definitely exploring canning right now. We see the opportunity there with some of our products. I think it'll be one of those things that we continue to. We won't move all of our products into a can if we go that route. We'll identify a few packages that we think will work and really kind of focus on hammering that in. So we're excited about that. It does mean 10 years in the game, which we're going to spend a shitload of money, which I've been pretty adverse to that, through this whole thing. But we've tried to be smart about our growth. We're also realistic. We don't want to be a massive brewery. We're kind of at the 4,000 barrels a year level right now. We see the opportunity to get a little bit bigger than we are. But I want to continue to stay small. Really focus on quality and servicing the local market. If we could sell beer only in Oklahoma at the volume we want to sell at, I will sell beer only in Oklahoma. We're selling in Arkansas and Kansas right now, but if it got to the point where we had to pull out of those markets because things were just going crazy here, awesome.
I've been curious about that because I see people like Prairie in Japan.
Yeah,
and I'm like, wow.
And they have a very different business model, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's just
we've over our 10 years, we've had the opportunity to sort of take that next step in rapid growth. But really resisted. I think, part of it may be just out of caution on my part of not wanting to go the extra mile to make this work. But I think we're really at a point where it's benefiting us now because with the rate of breweries opening, the growth, now you're starting to see some of these big breweries like New Belgium laying people off, which is really unfortunate, and that's an awesome company. They do a lot of great things, and that obviously was not an easy move for them, but you're seeing the need to figure that out moving forward as the landscape changes, what to do and continue to remain independent. Those are challenges people are having that we're not. I can't say we're sheltered from that because, we see some impacts of different things here and there, but we're not at the mercy of 35 different states selling our product. We kind of control own destiny to an extent within our region. And so I really like that. I mean, sort of the pillar of, starting this business, there were a few different things that was important to us, and it was, making good beer, making quality beer, taking care of my employees so they like coming to work every day.
Sure.
Doing good in the community, being a good partner in the community, which I think social responsibility is a huge part of small business, and in a business that we are where beer's a lot cooler than a lot of other things. We have the opportunity to kind of to be good partners and do some things other people can't, or host events or do different stuff that we can kind of help grow the soul of the city in some of that regard. And then the fourth thing is make our locals proud of what we do. Kind of the idea of take ownership in the fact that, hey, this is our local beer. Mm-hmm. We've got so somebody comes to town and it's like, hey, you got to try our local beer. So you've got that pride and that ownership. And so those are kind of the four things that are really important to me as the business moves forward, and that we've been able to stay pretty true to all along. Like I said, I mean, I've got guys that have been with me since the very beginning that are telling me, hey, we're lifers here, which is awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And a lot of those are the first several of them are buddies of mine, and so to walk in at the every day and see a place or have created a business to where these people enjoy coming to work every day, and sort of created an environment where, A, we can hang out every day, which is pretty cool, but B, we all work together, and for me as small business owner, you've got these guys that love and care just beyond punching the clock and coming in. I mean, they're invested in the day-to-day operations. They're invested in what's going on, and it's exciting. So, there might not be. If there is some, they're back over in that corner behind that shelf. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I have to give you a lot of credit for is I've been to a lot of tap rooms, drank a lot of beer in my life. Everyone I've ever interacted with from Marshall, whether it's here in the tap room, at a beer festival, what have it, seems so damn happy to work here. It's really awesome.
That's a huge compliment for me, and it's like, I think a lot of people will kind of say, hey, it's a we try to create a family atmosphere and all that, and I think a lot of people do, but it very much is that way. I mean, there's some instances where I probably give a little bit too much leniency in some areas or whatnot, but but at the same time, to sort of be in the position to have the peace of mind where I can leave for an entire half year while legislative session's going on and go try to change some laws and trust that I don't have to worry about what's going on here is pretty amazing. And I started the brewery when I was 26, and so I was young and dumb, and not that 26-year-olds are young and dumb, but I was
too. We were.
But sort of the evolution of everything is, had the brewery, growing a business, newly married, starting a career basically. But then, as time's gone along and the business has grown, and you start having kids, and life just changes at that point. And so to really be able to rely on these guys, day in and day out for some of that stuff, so I can be present in my kid's life and obviously continue to see that side of things blossom and grow, while still being involved, but kind of the grind of some of the stuff, to create an environment where I trust these guys, they love what they do, and they're proud of what they do is that's success in my opinion. So you can measure success in a bunch of different ways, but that's certainly an avenue where you can measure it, that and it's physical manual labor at the end of the day. There's definitely days you leave here and it's like, forget this,
Yeah, sure.
But I think one of the cool parts or the cool phenomenons about this too is that, at the end of the day, you can either hang out here, you can go to McNelly's or our bar, or Roosevelt's, or wherever we got beer, Andolini's, Hideaway, wherever we got beer on draft, and you can sit, have dinner, have a beer, and watch somebody you don't even know enjoying what you've just had a really shitty day,
right?
Producing, and there's this level of, all right, that makes it all better. I had a guy when I was at Victory. It was like a 18-hour day. Everything that could go wrong went wrong, and I'm leaving at like 3 a.m. The tap room there is closing down, and I'm just like, I'm done. And this guy comes rolling by in his car. He's like, "Man, you just getting out?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's been a long day." He goes, "Just know you're making some of the best beer in the country." And I was like, "Shit, man, that literally just made my whole day." And that's pretty cool to be involved in something that that's kind of the end thing for some people, which is really neat. So you're creating something that people are proud of.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
speaking of some of the best beer in the country, do you have a favorite style of beer or favorite beers you can recommend?
That's really hard, man. I think you'll kind of see favorite style. It's hard to say. Obviously, it depends on the day, depends on the time, whatever. I think you'll kind of see with some of the stuff we produce. I'm in my background, the German training and all that. I really love German styles of beer, the traditional German styles. Obviously, having the opportunity to then go work at Victory, they've always had kind of a focus on that as well. Was a really cool experience. I always like to say we were making Pilsners and lagers before it was cool, because now everybody's hopping on the Pilsner train, which is awesome, because there's a lot of great beers. But I think if you walked in the tap room right now, you'll see we've got, I don't think we have a Pilsner on today because we've got a few different things, but we generally have our Pilsner, we've got our This Land Lager, which is a Helles, we've got our Dunkel, which we just started packaging and
Dunkel is amazing.
Putting in bottles. I appreciate that.
So psyched.
We've got the Maibach on right now. We'll do a Hefeweizen in the summertime, but I'm really passionate about lagers. I think they're you'll hear some people say that you take a Helles or something like that. It's a really simple. I always like to say it's probably one of the most vanilla styles of beer we make, but it's also one of the most difficult styles you make. And so I think that as people get more and more, you start to get people that are into the craft, start getting into the craft early on and collecting and trading beers and all of that stuff. It's, do you have anything barrel aged? Do you have anything sour? What's the hoppiest thing you have? Which is great. That's never been sort of a focus of what we do. We do some of that stuff. We have some fun. But really to create a beer with balance, that's got good flavor, that's drinkable, that's kind of a good measure for me. And a big focus. We've made our Pilsner since it was the fourth of our core beers that we put out, but we started selling beer in May, and we put that beer out in September. And I've always said that we make that beer more for me than anybody else. So, and to really make those styles and make them well and consistent, it's really difficult. And so I think that you'll kind of find me lean more towards that. But I love IPAs. I love traditional Englishes. I love cask ales, which we don't get a ton of that. We try to do a little bit of that here. Going to England and hitting the pubs and whatever's on cask, whatever's on the engine, hit it up. There's a great brewery in Denver, probably one of my favorite breweries in the whole country, maybe the whole world, called Hogshead. And it's just it's an old gas station that's been turned into a little brew pub. Great atmosphere, but it's an old British guy who kind of bounced around doing the big. He worked for starting these big breweries in Cambodia and Africa and all these places. Finally settled and found himself in Denver and opened this place. And he's got a real small tap room that's got 6 beer engines and maybe 6 regular drafts, and so it's every time I go there, I spend way too much time, way too much money, and drink a little bit too much. But it's one of my favorite places, and one thing I love about that in Denver, it's very different than, your IPAs, IPA heavy tap rooms that you have. Again, awesome beers being made up there for sure, but you see that, and so I love the traditional cask. So I guess if you kind of boil it down, I tend to lean more towards tradition. I've got this thing that's always, there's a reason those traditional styles have been around for so long, because they're really good, and people like to drink them.
And you could drink a bunch of them.
And if they're done right, you can drink a bunch of them, and they're really cool, solid beers. But we also like to play around and experiment and do some different stuff too. It's just not a huge part of what we've done. We were talking earlier, we've got more barrels now than we ever have. And if you were to compare us to, Prairie or American Solera or whatever, we've got no barrels compared to what they have. And so, but it's kind of fun. It's a fun, different element to play with. And as we get into experimenting, it kind of breaks up the monotony of brewing Atlas and Sundown and all that all the time, which obviously I love those beers because we wouldn't make them if we didn't like them. But it works out for us, but then we get to play and have some fun with some different stuff.
And that one-off Wednesday you guys do every week.
Yeah.
That's kind of the playing.
Yeah,
right?
And some of that is actually brewing pilot batches. Other is sort of manipulating beers that we already have, which is kind of fun to see what different characters can take on with different spices, different ingredients. But then that also gives other ideas of, ooh, that would be really good with this or that or whatever. So
it just gives me an excuse to come here on Wednesdays. So
brewing's a beautiful art or beautiful interpretation of art and science together, and so it makes it a lot of fun to kind of play with a bunch of that different stuff and so on.
So for the listeners, I guess we paused for the cause. Tinkle time. Right, throwback.
Wow, that's back in year 1. We used to have a song every time we had to go to the bathroom because we drank too much. We had the tinkle time.
Yeah, we were a little nervous to do the show, so we had to drink a little more to do
awesome.
it.
That's awesome. Hey, that's all right.
Yeah.
I speak a lot better German after a couple beers.
I think it just sounds better after that too, probably. But so we're back. We were kind of talking before we paused. There was some mention about barrel aging and stuff like that, and I'm very curious how it's decided, what barrels you're going to use, things like that, because barrel aging is something that I think we're kind of somewhat divided on. Like some of them are delicious, and some of them it's like, okay, that tastes like I'm taking a shot.
Yeah.
And I don't really want that when I'm sipping on a beer.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, and we're probably not as scientific as some people when it comes to barrel selection.
Sure.
We historically we've worked with one broker for bourbon barrels that we get, that we start with our Black Dolphin, and then we try to get a couple of different uses out of it. And as you use the barrel more and more, it takes on different character. So the first time you're getting more spirit character, the heavy bourbon. Second time you're getting less of that, more kind of the softer vanillas, coconuts, starting to get some of the oak. The third time you're starting to get more like the sweet oaks, more of the softer characteristics of the spirit. Just in the last year, we've started to just toy around with some different stuff. And again, we don't do a ton, but like we'll start with Black Dolphin, and then we kind of alternate whether what goes back in the barrels after Black Dolphin. It's either Bound for Glory, which is essentially this machine IPA will age in those barrels and let it sit for a while. Or last year we started with the barley wine, which was turned out really good. We were really excited about that. And then this year, the beer that you were drinking earlier, the Lone Piper, was a wee heavier Scotch ale, aged in the third fill after the barley wine. So that was the first time we've used the barrel a third time, and it's really like you get a heavy sort of sweet oak character, which was really, really cool, and it played really well. We wanted to use a big malty beer in that so that it really kind of played with the oaky character. And again, really excited how that turned out. But now we're playing with some different barrels. Last year we got kind of one barrel of each of a few different things. We've got some beer aging in Chardonnay barrels right now, which again, it's this machine aging in, which we found is a pretty cool beer for kind of platform for some different barrel stuff. So we've got this machine aging in Chardonnay barrels, which will come out later this year under the name Pastures of Plenty. So we kind of have a Woody Guthrie theme with that. This machine obviously is a nod to Woody's iconic guitar that said "This machine kills fascists." Kind of cool story behind that's one of my favorite stories. Is when we were kind of approached by, as they were opening Guthrie Green to do a kind of Woody Guthrie-esque beer, and so we just took a beer that we were already making and threw this machine label on it, and we decided, man, that's really cool. We like that. We need to do something. While we were playing with this kind of Belgian IPA, then it was like, man, this works. So we use that branding, but I was like, okay, if we're actually going to make a go at this and do something more than just a one tap over at Guthrie Green, I want to make sure we're not stepping on trademarks, stepping on anybody's toes. So the director over at the Guthrie Center got me in touch with Woody Guthrie Publications, who owns the trademarks, all that, which is run by Woody's daughter Nora Guthrie. And we got to talking one day, got connected, got to talking, ended up having a great conversation, and hit it off and got to talking about different stuff. And she was like, yeah, I'm glad we were able to connect. I'm getting ready to go to Germany for half the year. And I was like, really? She was like, yeah, I live over there. My husband's from Germany. We live there about half the year. And I was like, crazy. Well, I'm going to be in Germany in like 3 weeks. What part of Germany you're in? And she's like, oh, my husband's from Bonn. And I was like, well, no way. I'm going to be like 45 minutes from there. She was like, let's meet up and have a beer. And I was like, sounds good to me. So here I am in the middle of Bonn, Germany, having beers with Woody Guthrie's daughter, getting her blessing to use her dad's iconic, this machine on our beer. And my daughter's name is Nora, and to this day she was with us, and to this day as we drive by the Guthrie Center, she's like, Daddy, look, it's Woody Guthrie. His daughter Nora shared her lunch with me. So it's kind of you get those personal stories, you have that connection to it. It's cool. But kind of as we've gone along with that beer, we've seen it as a cool platform to use some of these different barrels. So Bound for Glory is another Guthrie. It was the autobiography that Woody Guthrie had, that Woody Guthrie wrote with somebody else. And then as we started to think, okay, the fruity, the one of the main hops in this machine is a hop called Nelson Sauvin, which is grown in the region in New Zealand where a lot of Sauvignon Blanc grapes grow. So you get a lot of that similar characteristic of the sort of melony, kind of that grape Sauvignon Blanc character. So we were like, man, this could age cool in a white wine barrel. And so we got one a couple of years ago and just tried it, and I was like, shit, this is really good. So got a few more, and so that beer, we're trying to figure out a name. Again, trying to find a Guthrie reference, and I was just kind of messing around one day and came across a song Woody Guthrie wrote called "Pastures of Plenty," which is about basically about migrant workers during the Dust Bowl era. But the third verse of that song talks about going up to Oregon to pick hops and grapes in the same verse of the song, and I was like, holy shit, this is perfect, right? Which I thought it was a cool name too, and so that'll be coming out sometime probably midsummer, but we're real excited about that. And then we've got a 10th anniversary beer in barrels right now, which is an old ale, and we've got a quarter of it aging in rye whiskey barrels. We've got a quarter of it aging in Lefroy barrels, so the single malt whiskey Isla, so kind of that real peaty, smoky whiskey. We pulled a sample earlier today, and I was like, whoa, it's crazy.
Oh, yeah? Cool.
We've got a quarter aging in port barrels that spent a little time also at Breckenridge Distilling. aging a little bit of whiskey, so it's got a little whiskey, little port character, and then a quarter in rum barrels. And then we also, just kind of again to play with, we got an apple brandy barrel and a gin barrel. You can see the little baby gin barrel right there.
Oh yeah, right behind us.
So just kind of fun. Again, it was playing with the different stuff, and then it's finding beers. The old ale that we brewed, we just kind of figured it was a cool beer, that just a good sort of canvas for the barrels to really shine. So I'm excited about it. Excited about having a beer that same beer in 4 different barrels to kind of see what different character it is. So we're getting a little more into the barrel stuff, but again, our sort of selection of barrels isn't scientific. Yeah. You find good suppliers that are selling a good product, and you just kind of shop with what they've got. And a shout out to Chase over at American Solera. He's got me hooked up with a couple of different people, and then Mike Lawley down at Chalk, who of course owns Prairie. He's got me onto a few different places too. So that's the great thing about this industry. There's a lot of love and information share. We're all beer lovers first.
Yeah.
Business owners second. So we all appreciate what everybody does, and
noticed that at the brunch,
it's fun.
The beer brunch.
Oh yeah,
the interaction between the different brewers seemed like very friendly, as opposed to being competitors between each other. It's kind of cool to see.
Yeah. It's cool. It really is. It's a fun industry to be in, and for the most part, it's good people. So I have no hesitation to call one of those guys and say, I don't know what I'm doing. Help me out here. And so
sure,
it's nice that as the industry grows here in Tulsa or here in Oklahoma, that we've got that base of people that you can kind of pick their brains off of. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just fun to watch. When we started this show 4.5 years ago, I mean, you guys were around, and Prairie was around, and Chalk, and I want to say Coop maybe in Oklahoma City.
Yeah,
and that was about it.
Yeah,
and
maybe had Anthem going.
Yeah, probably
kind of starting. Yeah,
and it's just Mustang. Yes, that's true. That was one of our early interactions in the craft beer industry. But it's just blown up so much, and it's really fun to watch and drink. I'm curious because we're talking about the barrels and stuff like that. We were here for Black Dolphin Friday.
Yeah. Got a little crazy, huh?
We may have had every variation you guys had that day, and maybe had some fuzzy memories from that night.
There was a little bit of that that day.
Yeah, but I'm curious, as you're talking about the barrel selection and stuff like that, if I'm remembering correctly, and I'm probably not, because like I just said, there was a coffee variety, a plum variety, what else? Cherry, vanilla. And I think there was like a 2015 version or something like that.
There was, and I think that's it.
So the coffee especially intrigues me, because the Black Dolphin with coffee, and then there was also the Belgian Stout with coffee.
Yeah.
That have ranked in both of our top echelon of
cool.
beers, where we've got a tradition on the show where if it ranks above a certain rating, it gets assigned a body part on a holy deity.
Nice.
And they both landed in that realm. And so I'm just curious, with the coffee stuff, how that all works, because I wouldn't think coffee doesn't come in a barrel, does it? So how do you infuse all that?
So we did a whole shitload of different tests on coffee as we started to play with some of that stuff and what method works best. And everybody's got the way they like to do things. And after kind of running the way that we did, we found a method that works best for us, and we like to call it dry beaning. But basically what we're doing is we take a blend of like whole bean coffee and very, very, very coarsely ground coffee. So kind of half and half, and add that to the beer after fermentation. kind of like dry hopping.
Okay.
And then we've got a period of time where we feel that it's kind of at its pinnacle before it starts to pick up some of the sort of acrid character, become a little bit astringent. We've had a great relationship with several of the roasters in Tulsa. We've had a great relationship with Topeka.
Topeka's the one I keep seeing pop up with you guys and others.
And so really it's kind of coordinating with them. We'll play with some different coffees. The idea, like we packaged, last year we did a big Jamoke with coffee and released it on a 4-pack. And sort of the idea with that is to do kind of a different coffee every year as we're going through.
Awesome.
So it's really just kind of finding a coffee that works, and then working with them to make sure it's roasted and the right amount of time to where it's at its sort of pristine aroma character.
Yeah.
And then so with the Dolphin, we just added it straight to the barrel, honestly.
Oh, nice.
About a couple days before, we were racking it out of there and doing the thing. And so we've experimented with doing cold brew and adding it with adding the coffee in the brewing process. But we've really found sort of what we like the best there, and we've had a lot of fun with the different coffees, and I've learned a lot about coffee over the years, and with these relationships that we've developed with these guys, it's really hard to drink like normal coffee,
right?
Now,
That's my thing. I'm like, I don't like normal coffee, but you put that in a beer.
Yeah.
Apparently, I'm a coffee drinker.
Yeah, right. But we've done some cool stuff. We did for a deal Topeka did. We took our Dunkel and used like 4 different coffees. So we did 4 different 6 barrels and 4 different coffees, and just the different characteristics. So cool.
Yeah.
So you had some that were darker roasted, some that were super light roasted. So you get sort of the fruity, some of the fruity notes. That it's like, you start to. It's kind of like beer too. You get into one thing but you hear other people talk about, the pear and the apple flavor and the coffee. It's like, man, that shit's hot, man. I can't taste it. And I can't taste those flavors. But when poured right and done right, it's like, oh shit, I get that,
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the fun thing for us, is obviously we're really passionate about what we do and beer, and to sort of see that crossover in so many different areas with coffee, cycling, audiophile people who are all into the records and and all that. So to kind of have that cross-cultural thing of what people are really passionate about and some of those things that they kind of hone in on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of crossover in that stuff, and so it's really cool to kind of see and learn from those people, because I like to think some people have probably learned from us. Hell, we've learned from a lot of other people on beer stuff, but it's neat to kind of see where that all takes you, So.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the experimentation is definitely working, because he brought it up. We really like the coffee beer with stouts, and a lot of them, they don't taste like coffee. They don't smell like coffee. And yours, the 2 that he mentioned earlier, hit both those notes perfectly. They actually taste like what they say that they're going to be.
It's pretty cool.
And we've talked a few times about, we kind of label it as drinking the milk directly from the cow's tit or whatever, but the beer that you get here in the tap room tastes awesome. Not that the beer in the bottles doesn't, but it does have an elevated taste profile to it. So what is it just the freshness to it, or
you've got some freshness? You never know, where the age, things of that nature. As you put it in bottles and some of that, I mean, you're getting different levels of dissolved oxygen, which can affect the beer. You never know how that beer's treated once it's left here. If it's been hot to cold to hot to cold to hot to cold, things of that nature. It's funny you say that. Like I have this thing. It's like we've got, we obviously taste it here, but there's certain places that I go that like I can't wait to taste the beer here at that place, because maybe it's like a mental thing, you know. It's like, oh, you know, this is my place, you know.
Sure.
And I can't wait to go have this beer on draft at that place.
That makes sense.
Because it's the environment, you know, and what's the I don't even know what I'm trying to say here. I don't know. You can cut that part out. I don't know.
I'll say, you know, for years,
placebo effect. That's what I was trying to get
there
at.
You go. Yeah. but for years before you guys opened the tap room and everything, I drink you guys' beers when they were available in bottles and stuff at certain places, and I think we reviewed a handful in the early years of the podcast in bottles at the house. But what was always exciting to me was going to McNally's.
Yeah.
And going.
That's one of my places.
Oh
for
shit!
sure.
They've got 17 Marshall beers or whatever it is on tap, and it was just, so that was my place for a long time. The place to try local beers and stuff like that, and it's so nice now to be able to just come here and it's all here. And it's
oh, that's cool.
straight
Yeah,
from the cow's
and we
tit,
love
as
that.
he said.
But yeah, you mentioned McNally's. That's one of my places. That's
Yeah.
one of the places. It's like I can't wait to go have that beer at McNally's.
Right.
You know, there again, it's sort of the ambiance. It's the whatever, but you know, there's also that level of, you know, you love the people, and again, McNally's isn't the only place, because there's so many places that are on that list. But you know, Ellie's been a great friend to me and a great ally in helping us sort of champion that. He really is a big champion of Tulsa and wanting to see that stuff happen. And I think, you know, to go out and support people that are supporting the community and wanting to continue to grow. I mean, that stuff's just as important as anything else, and to kind of have that sort of in the back of the mind, I think that's where, you know, you get that level of like, all right, yeah, it's better here, you know. Not that it necessarily is, but it's just the ambiance, and of course they care about what they're doing. They care about the product they're pouring, and you know, that can be said for so many other places too. So I don't want somebody to think we're singling them out. But
I'll throw out Andolini's right now. I had Red Revival there the other night.
Andolini's a great place. You know, so there's tons of them, but you know, it's cool to see that we've gotten to the point where there's more and more places where people can go and enjoy, and the craft industry is growing. And there's a lot of places now that are opening that are talking about going just to Oklahoma beer, which it's like,
oh man,
wow, it's cool that you can do that. You know, there's a lot of great beer being made in this state.
There really is. It's awesome. It's really fun to watch.
I could talk about beer all day. This is awesome.
Oh, I can too.
I can too.
Yeah.
I do have one thing though, because the Germany thing. I was born in Germany, Army brat. I lived in Stuttgart, Germany, a couple places. I want to go to Germany as an adult to visit places. Is there somewhere you would recommend for the beer? I mean, Germany and whole.
Two places for sure. Munich. I mean, that's the epicenter of your. When people think about beer, they think of Oktoberfest, and you know, my favorite beer in the entire world. You know, if you're a desert island, you could only have one beer. Would be Augustiner Edelstoff, which is Augustiner is one of the big 6 breweries in Munich. You've got Augustiner, Hackerschor, Spaten, Polliner, Lovenbräu, and Hofbrau.
Okay.
And Augustiner, we have started to get Augustiner in the last several years over here, but it's lost its luster by the time it's here.
Yeah,
but
the only one of those I recognize Spot.
Yeah, fresh.
We've had, I think, a few of those.
Fresh from the source. You know, again, that's one of those beers. It's a traditional, just Helles, you know, easy German lager, but God, man, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good when it's fresh. Again, you know, ambiance side of it. But it's one you can drink all the time. It's consistently just a great beer. So Munich, the other place I would say, and maybe even above Munich, would be Bamberg, which is about 2 hours north of Munich. It's also in Bavaria. But Bamberg is it's a beautiful town. It's a UNESCO protected village, but they have more breweries per capita than anywhere in Germany, and at one time it was anywhere in the world. I'm sure San Diego probably has holds the rope on that one, but or holds the trophy on that one. But Bamberg's cool. We actually end up getting most of our malt from a malting company there in Bamberg, Weirmann. But Bamberg's also known for Rauch beer, which is the smoked lager, or smoked beers.
Okay.
Which is a historic style. But they've got a lot of other great stuff. But it's just such a cool town. I love Bamberg. Last couple times we've gone, we've actually stayed at breweries. Like the guests, they have like a hotel in their pub area, or their I don't even know what they Braustube. But beautiful town. But man, if you're going anywhere, you're going to find great places to drink beer.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Germany, and the people are great. I think Germany forever has kind of gotten this rap that's very just stern, people, and that's sort of the stereotype. But for the most part, the people are great, and they're resourceful. They love what they have. They're if you go over and make an effort to be there and enjoy the culture, I mean, they're so inviting and warm people. It's so clean. I love it. I mean, I lived with a family over there in college that I call my family. I mean, they're my son, who's 2. His middle name is Klaus, after my German dad. I talk to them. I try to talk to them about every month or so. But they come over here quite a bit. We go over there. It's just that great friendship. But it's just like it's one of those places. And granted, I spent 7 months in college there, but it's like I go there and it's like, man, I'm home. It's like a second home to me, which is crazy. Kind of a cool story to elaborate beyond that is when we started out, like a lot of other breweries, we buying used kegs everywhere, and a lot of them were sort of those old converted like soda kegs, but we hit a point where it's like, all right, this madness, this rush is kind of over. We also have a little bit more money to play with. We buy new kegs; they're going to last a lot longer. So we started buying kegs from this German company. At the time, it was called Franke, and now it's called Blefa, which is the division of Franke. But I got the kegs, and they came in. Man, they're beautiful kegs. I start looking at all of the. I start looking at, and this might be one of them. I start looking at all of the markings, and you can see Franke, Blefa.
Oh, that's awesome.
Kreuztal. So that's actually where I lived in college.
That's
so
crazy.
This factory was literally like a 5-minute walk from my home in Germany, from my host family.
It just all
so it was kind of like
yeah.
Man, the world is small, man.
Right
there.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like just the supporting. If it's not supporting America, right?
Right.
That's kind of my second
Might as well,
home.
yeah,
So
exactly.
Just kind of full circle. One of those weird, like, wow, this is really cool moments. And having lived there, I had no idea they made kegs.
Yeah.
And but I knew when I read that, I knew exactly where the factory was. I knew exactly. And then the last time we went over there, I got hooked up through the supplier to go tour the factory, and so we got to see all these kegs being made. And the cool thing is they were making victory kegs while I was there that day. So they had everything, and I was
circle.
like, "What is going on here?"
Holy crap!
So it was a pretty neat experience, and so that's kind of cool thing. I mean, part of it, it's like every time I go over there, it really is a business trip, so I can go visit the factory and whatnot. But yeah, I love it. So we were trying to go last summer, but it didn't happen. So hopefully this summer's probably not going to happen either, because we're trying to open the tap room.
Yeah.
Hopefully next summer we'll get to make it back over there, because
That's awesome.
I love it. So yes, so if you decide to go over there, let me know, and I'll give you a whole slew of places.
Oh, definitely. It's happening.
And
that
let me
makes
know
it even
so
better.
I can drink beer with you over there.
Okay.
So I'm curious, speaking of like all the ties and stuff, I just thought about this as you guys were talking about Germany. You were talking about TU earlier.
Yep.
You're offering beer courses there now, right?
So we've been very fortunate that we've had a lot of cool stuff happen with TU. I've had the opportunity pretty much since we started to go back and be able to, talk to different business students, talk to different German students, kind of the whole giving back aspect. But my thing originally was like, all right, I'm living, breathing proof that you don't have to go a traditional route. You go to college, you do this, you get a job here, you do that for a few years, you go back to grad school, you do whatever.
Right.
I started making beer, guys, and so it was really sort of the promoting study abroad, because it opens your eyes to so many different things. But also, blazing your own trail, kind of figuring out what works for you and how do you make that your life? How do you turn that into your career? Or whatever. But then that's evolved over the years where we've gotten to work with the marketing department several times, where we've had different students work on some different marketing projects for us. We had a great project where we worked with a bunch of senior engineering students, and they built a bottle depalletizing, or designed and built a bottle depalletizing system for us. So no more hand loading bottles onto the bottling line. We now can sweep a whole layer of bottles from a pallet onto the conveyor. It eliminates the need for a person on the line. And then the last couple of years, we've had a great internship it's funded, it's partially funded. It's a matching program through OCAS, the Oklahoma Center for Advancement in Science and Technology. Where we've had an intern here, biology, chemistry student, or a science, somebody in the engineering natural science college that works on the quality control side of things here. So the original guy helped set up a lab, helped to figure out what testing we really needed to kind of focus on, and then as we've had other interns kind of come in, they've been able to work on some bigger projects. Maybe use the lab over at TU if we don't have some of the equipment here, but then also kind of continue to further those programs. So it's been a really cool deal. And through that, one of the heads of the chemistry department, Keith Simcox, who, I love it, he's not even a beer guy, wanted to teach a chemistry of beer course, and then saw the opportunity maybe to develop a brewing certificate program. So kind of the idea that, this is a growing industry. There's an opportunity for people to, basically come in and say, okay, I want to work in this industry. You go to apply for a job, and it's like, okay, great. What experience do you have? You can say, okay, I don't have any experience, but I've got this brewing certificate, which means, I took course, I understand more than a basic knowledge, and we've worked through the protocol manual of the American Society of Brewing Chemists doing all these different tests. So when you tell me what we're testing, I'm not completely blank. I know what you're talking about. Cool. And so that's developed, and then so it's going to continue to grow. So they're on board for some of that stuff, which is really neat. So it's good for the industry. And then not TU, through OSU. Wes, our director of sales and marketing, has gotten involved in with the school of hotel and restaurant management school, which they've recently changed the name. But we're getting ready. I'm chairing the inaugural craft beer forum. So they've done a wine forum over there forever. But they're doing a craft beer forum. So and they're bringing in like the guy who started White Labs, which is one of the big yeast suppliers. They're bringing in the guy who is basically the North American rep for Chimay. I mean, they've got some heavy hitters coming in to awesome. Really make this a cool experience. But with them sort of focusing the educational aspect on that side of things. So you've got a whole wave of students that are entering the profession of opening restaurants, of managing restaurants, of hotels. Different things of that nature that, they've got this solid knowledge of craft beer and what's going on there.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it's so cool to see the growth there and see the universities embracing that, because I think it's huge for the future of the industry and for the ultimately the end consumer. the experience there. So
Yeah.
we're really excited. That's coming up April 7th, and it's going to be a really neat deal. So
Yeah.
we're excited that you've got these higher education places focusing on that side of things, because again, it's only gonna benefit the industry. So.
And I'm happy that it's OSU and not OU. But I just that aside.
Hey, I'm a TU guy, so I root for everybody as long as they're not playing TU.
I just had to throw that in there.
Yeah.
You got anything else?
Cool.
I think this has been very thorough and
That's
enjoyable.
awesome. I've really enjoyed it. I love, it's fun doing interviews, but it's also fun doing interviews with people who really
just enjoy your beer.
passionately care about craft beer and all of this. And so,
Man, we do.
I mean, you get a couple beers, we can keep going for hours and hours and hours.
Oh, we
and have
could.
some good spin-offs. So maybe we stop here and do it again sometime. I think
would
it'd be a lot
agree
of fun.
with that. Yeah. So I'm gonna let Michael close it down.
That guy said, "Don't let the door hit in the vagina on the way out." That was hilarious.
Good idea.
All right, so that's going to do it for this week's special round of Pub Talk. A big thank you to the folks at Marshall Brewing for having us out today. To find out more about these fine folks, head over to their website, marshallbrewing.com, or stop by the Taproom and pick up a beer or 20. If you enjoyed what you heard today and want to know more about the show, hit us up on pretty much all the social media platforms at Pub Talk Podcast. You can shoot us an email to pubtalkpodcast@gmail.com for any suggestions if you want us to do more stuff like this or just to say hi. Or simply find us on the web at pubtalkpodcast.com. And remember, folks, there's never anything too big or hard in life that you can't handle it over a few beers with your good friends. So until next time, just chill to the next episode.
Bye-bye.
See ya.